Hello and welcome to Middlesex Moments, the radio program and podcast produced by faculty, staff, and students at Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, the campus CEO and academic dean, and your host for these programs. As always, Middlesex Moments comes to you from the radio and television studios in the Center for New Media located on the main campus of Middlesex Community College here in Middletown. And today my guest is Tad Lincoln, who's professor of economics and political science at Middlesex, and thanks for joining me today, Tad.
My pleasure.
Now, Tad, how long have you been at the college?
11 years full-time, and I taught a couple courses as an adjunct for a couple of years before that.
Okay. And you primarily teach economics at the college?
Exactly, yeah.
And you teach both on-ground and online versions of the course?
I do, although I prefer on-ground courses. That's why I chose to teach some years ago, because I really enjoy that.
Okay. And before coming to the college, you have a background in business, and you've traveled around the world. You've worked in several different countries. So tell us a little more about your background and what brought you eventually into higher education.
Well, the short version would be that I worked in East Asia for a number of years. And the first job that I took in East Asia was as a university professor teaching ESL. And that was my first opportunity to teach university classes or college classes. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I said, someday, after I do some other things in my life, like travel and make a little bit of money, because we don't make big bucks here at the college, I'm going to come back to teaching, and that's what I did. So I taught ESL in Japan, I taught it in China, even taught it in New York City for a little while. And so I love the teaching part of it, but I did a bunch of other things, and then I came back to teaching.
Okay. So in living in several places around the world, what's been your favorite place to either live or your favorite place to visit?
By far, the place that I enjoyed the most was China. I loved my time in China. I've traveled a lot more in China than any other country, including the United States. Mm-hmm. And there's just some incredible natural beauty. I enjoyed the culture. I had a lot of fun when I was there. So yeah, and I've been back there a few times. I've worked in a few different roles in different parts of China, and it was a wonderful experience being there.
So I've never traveled to China. So if I were to ask you, as a perhaps new visitor to the country of China, what places would you recommend that I go to first?
I guess that would depend on what sorts of things you find the most interesting. But there are things all over China. If you're looking for natural beauty, I would say go west a bit or southwest. There's a lot of natural beauty there. One of the horizons that you see in a lot of advertisements for China is Guilin, China, in southwestern China. The beautiful landscape with these limestone peaks that sort of just stick out of the ground. A lot of people have seen that before. There's also some really cool old caves on the old Silk Road in China, in northwestern China. Fascinating paintings on the walls, very interesting. But of course, there's the more popular touristy things that aren't too far from Beijing, the wall, and then of course in Beijing, the Forbidden City, and there's the list goes on forever. Amazing. There's so many things to see in China.
Amazing. So after all those experiences living in different parts of the world, what brought you to Middletown? Did you grow up in the area, or otherwise, how did you find Middlesex Community College?
Right. I did go to high school in this area. And when I was in high school, I used to come into downtown Middletown. There wasn't much here in downtown Middletown when I was a kid, so I'm dating myself a little bit. That downtown had pretty much, like a lot of Connecticut, their manufacturing sector had been routed out, I guess you could say, with competition. At the time, it wasn't China that was bringing in that competition. And so there was a roller skating rink, I remember, from high school, and there wasn't much else. And Middletown's done an incredible job to reinvigorate the downtown, and now it's an amazing place.
Yeah, it's an exciting place to live and to work, and we have a lot available to us on Main Street and between our college and Wesleyan University and other cultural institutions in town. It has come a long way.
Absolutely.
In our lifetime, that's for sure.
Yes.
Okay, well, Tad, we do have to take a short break here on Middlesex Moments, and when we come back, more with Tad Lincoln, his role at the college. We'll talk a little bit about his work in the Connecticut General Assembly in leading our legislative internship program, and we'll talk about the Middletown International Film Festival. More with Middlesex Moments after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. This is Steve Minkler, together with my guest Tad Lincoln, Professor of Economics and Political Science. Before the break, we were both commenting about Middletown's come a long way from its heyday of having manufacturing being its employment base years ago. And Tad, you've played a particular role in helping Middlesex Community College try to really affirm our role in helping companies and manufacturers in our area, and talk a little bit about what you've been trying to help us do.
Well, my role has been, I guess, behind the scenes, because I don't have any explicit role in that. But I think manufacturing and helping manufacturers find the people they need that are adequately trained to do manufacturing jobs is, I think it is at the top, or at least at the top couple things on the list that can help the Connecticut economy start to grow and expand its tax base. And I think it's critical. Maybe one of the most critical things we can do is to make sure employers have enough people who can do the manufacturing jobs that are still here in Connecticut. And those manufacturing jobs are not like the manufacturing jobs of yesterday. They are mostly and very clean manufacturing jobs, but they take skills, and they take certain math skills, and they take some logic and critical thinking. So, and because they take those things, they also pay a lot better than the sorts of manufacturing jobs that used to be around. But you got to have those skills, and we can provide those here at the college and with some of the other community colleges here in the state. And I like to get involved, even though I don't have any explicit role in trying to help develop those relationships and improve that, I'll use the word pipeline, although that might be something else you would want to talk about that has a specific term like that. But I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help employers get the people they need.
So, Tad, one of the things that I know about you as a professor of economics and political science is that you try to ensure that students have some connection between the materials that you use in your class, whether that's the books or the readings and other assignments that you have them doing, with real-world applications. And how does that manifest itself in your classes?
Right, absolutely. I teach economics, I think, very differently than most economics professors. I bring in a lot of real-world examples, and I ask a lot of questions of the students. A few years ago, I had someone sit in on one of my classes. Another professor said that I have more participation in one class than they have in an entire semester. So there's a lot of interaction, and I want the students to learn through the examples that I give. I want them to arrive at conclusions rather than me spitting them out to them. So I feel that students taking in a class as if they're watching television is not the best way for them to learn. So you want them to be part of the conversation and to arrive at these conclusions instead of just having them presented to them. So lots of interaction, lots of critical thinking, lots of real-world examples, so they leave the classroom thinking about what's actually going on in the world. And I'll add to that that I encourage the students to bring examples of things that are going on during the semester that are directly related to the concepts that I'm teaching. And that also helps to encourage additional conversation and helps relate what we're learning to the real world and what's going on right now.
Okay. I do know also that you have participated as a faculty member in our Center for Prison Education that Middlesex Community College operates together with Wesleyan University. And how have you found that experience as a classroom teacher?
Yeah, so last semester and the semester before, I taught 2 classes inside the Cheshire Prison. It's been wonderful working with Wesleyan University on that, and it's been an amazing experience teaching the students within the Cheshire Prison. The most motivated students I've ever had. Of course, you could say the students have time to study, and they certainly do, but many of them are reading the textbook probably several times, so they ask incredibly good questions. Virtually everyone in the class participates a lot, and I even went in additional hours to allow the students to ask additional questions, and the grades in the classes were mostly A's because everybody was so into the to the material and so well read and on top of all of the the homework assignments and ready for quizzes and ready for exams, and so it was an incredible experience. Mm-hmm. And any teacher who teaches because they love to see the students learn, well, you can't help but really enjoy it.
That's fantastic. And I know we had our graduation ceremony at Cheshire Correctional Institute this past summer, and you were there, and I clearly saw students coming up to you, shaking your hands, thanking you for being their teacher. And I'm sure it was powerful for both you as the faculty member and them as the students. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. So I hope to be teaching again in a different prison next semester and the semester after that. And I expect that's likely to happen. Okay,
excellent. So one of the ways that, if we're talking about connecting students to real-world experiences in college, is through internships. And your role as a professor of economics and political science, you help oversee Middlesex Community College's participation in the the Connecticut General Assembly's legislative internship program. And you tell us more about that. I know you've brought some students to the Capitol recently, and you have the liaison to the General Assembly visit the college. What would a student expect going into a legislative internship program such as the one that we run here?
So yeah, I'm very much involved in helping to connect our students to the Capitol to understand what's going on up there at the General Assembly, the Connecticut General Assembly. I did just last week bring a busload of students up to the Capitol. We call it the Capitol Tour. We bring the busload up, and this is all free to our students here at Middlesex. And we do this on a regular basis. So we bust them all up there on a Friday. They got a tour of the Capitol and the Legislative Office building. We gave them all lunch, and then we had a meet and greet with several legislators from the area so that they could, see what these people are like and see that these are real people that are up at the Capitol making decisions, hopefully in our best interest. So I do what I can to get the students understanding how the state works and understanding the legislative process. And in the past, I've also brought a number of legislators onto the campus, into my classrooms, and I've publicized that to everybody on campus so that they could come and sit in on those classes, and many people took me up on that. As far as the legislative internship program, I've been doing that since I started here. So I think within a month or two of me coming, our president at the time approached me and asked me if I would be willing to coordinate that program on campus, and I've done it ever since. And I've done a lot, I think, to promote the program on campus, and we've had as many as 8 students in one semester get into the program. So I'm very pleased with that in the sense that I don't push it in the sense that somebody who's not interested, I don't want them to do it, but I make sure most students on campus know that opportunity is available, and if they have an interest, then they can pursue it. I think before I came, there weren't a lot of students who even knew about it. So at least I want students to know about it, to know that opportunity is available to them. And so what a legislative intern does is each spring semester, only in the spring semester, they work as an intern, but they also learn a lot. So it's not all work. There's a lot of quite a large academic component of this program. So they 2 days a week, either Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays, so they can take classes on the other days that they're not up there, and they get assigned to a legislator, and they work with that legislator to help them in all kinds of ways, from dealing with constituents I've had some writing bills for them. I've had them work on projects, bringing in data, looking at how other states deal with issues that we're dealing with. And, of course, exactly what they do and how much time they spend on things varies dramatically from one legislator to another, depending on what that legislator does, whether they sit on certain committees, whether they lead those committees. But whatever it is, I've never had an intern come to me who has finished a program say it was anything less than an incredible experience. So I try to let as many students know about it and to get involved.
Yeah, and that's terrific. And think about what an amazing resume builder that is, to say that you've worked for a member of the legislature and the kinds of recommendation letters you could get from somebody if you're a student who's going to graduate and try to go get a job.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have one intern that after her internship, she got a full-time job at the Capitol. There aren't so many positions there at the Capitol, but she's working up there right now. I just talked with her last week. I have another student who did the legislative internship, and she got a job with CBIA, which is an organization that lobbies for businesses here in Connecticut. So she was only entering her junior year in college. She transferred up to the University of Connecticut from Middlesex Community College, and she got a full-time job with CBIA, making a salary that almost always would only go to a college graduate while she was finishing her degree at the University of Connecticut. Very unusual. I've had interns, while they're interns at the Capitol, be sent to hometowns to cast votes for their legislators. I've had interns that have become really good and lasting friends with their legislators. It's always, there's a lot of variation from legislator to legislator and student to student, but it's always an amazing experience. Okay. And I would recommend it to almost anyone.
Fantastic. Okay, it's time for another short break. And when we come back, more with Middlesex Moments. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from Middlesex Community College. This is Steve Minkler, together with my guest, Tad Lincoln, Professor of Economics and Political Science. And we've been talking about Tad's role at the college as a faculty member and having our students engaged in the world around them, particularly in things like our legislative internship. But another thing Tad does at our college, he's very involved with many things, is he helps co-coordinate the Middletown International Film Festival, which is now ongoing. And we still have 3 films that are left to be shown this semester. And so, Tad, tell us which films have been selected this semester.
Sure, absolutely. So the film festival is in conjunction with Russell Library. Well, Russell Library leads it, and the chair of our committee is Gail Thompson-Allen, who does all kinds of stuff at the library, at the Russell Library here in Middletown, and also with Wesleyan University and us, Middlesex Community College. So we watch a lot of films, and we decide on 6 international films each year to be shown as part of the festival. And so, as Steve said, we've already shown a few of the films so far, so we've got a few more. We show 1 per week. And so the next 2 coming up are going to be shown here at Middlesex Community College. We show 2 at Middlesex, 2 at Wesleyan, and 2 at Russell. So the one coming up this week is White Sun. So that is a film from Nepal, a fascinating film loaded with local culture and some of the really fascinating idiosyncrasies, you might say, or you might see them as idiosyncrasies. Those are part of the culture in Nepal. But in this case, idiosyncrasies surrounding death and the rituals that are involved when somebody passes away. So fascinating film, and it will be shown on Tuesday.
Tuesday, October 23rd, right? It's at 7 o'clock here at Middlesex.
Right, here in Chapman Hall at Middlesex Community College. So, and then after that, on October 30th, this year, they're all on Tuesday nights, also in Chapman Hall at Middlesex Community College at 7 p.m., is Santa and Andreas. Each of these films, by the way, has a speaker. So you can come, you can watch the film. It'll have English subtitles because they're in a foreign language. There's a speaker who introduces the film, very briefly talks about the film, introduces it. Then we have then we show the film, and then the speaker talks about the film a bit, explains anything that might be hard to understand, takes a lot of questions. And also, Gail Thompson Allen herself actually bakes for every one of these movies, and she's been doing it for the past decade. And she brings in typically a kind of cookies that are the same or similar to the sorts of sweets that they would have in the culture of the film that's being shown. Mm-hmm. So the snacks are free. The film is free. You don't need to have tickets or anything. You can just show up for the film and enjoy it. And you even get somebody, a speaker, to explain the film, anything that you might not understand. Right. Santa and Andreas on October 30th, the speaker is one of our professors here at the college, Professor Victor Trier, whose parents came from Cuba, actually. This film is from Cuba. It was banned in Cuba. And it's a fascinating story about a dissident, somebody who was a writer who wrote in a way that wasn't quite what Fidel Castro wanted this person to write. And so the film is about a political event going on in Cuba, and somebody sent by the government to keep this person under wraps for a few days while this event went on. And another fascinating film. And then Victor Trier, who's actually going to be, who actually spoke about Operation Pedro Pan last week at another event here at the college, is very knowledgeable and has written books about Cuba. So he'll be able to talk a lot about that. And then the last film will actually take place on Tuesday, November 6th at Russell Library in the Hubbard Room, 7 p.m. And that's called America Square. It's a Greek film. I think it's the first film that we've ever chosen from Greece. And it's about immigration issues, so we think very relevant to some of the issues that are going on today here in the U.S. And the fact that they call it America Square is probably, in a way, referencing some of the immigration issues that we're having here in the U.S. And if you watch the film, you see there are some similarities there. So another fascinating film, and please come and see it. That's November 6th at Russell Library Hubbard Room, 7 p.m.
Okay. So you said there is a small committee that screens potential films for the Middletown International Film Festival. About how many films do you watch in order to cull them down to a good group of 6 that are actually shown?
I'd say it varies a little bit from year to year. 30 to 40 films we'll watch and try to find the ones that we think are most suitable. And there's a lot that goes into that. We want to get a sort of a spread of films from around the earth. So we don't want all the films to be from one corner of the earth. So we want to make sure that we're getting different sorts of, let's say, foci of the films. And so, for example, we have one that deals with disabilities. We have one dealing with, really, you might say, to some extent, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but also some of the other conflict in the Middle East, dealing with Christians versus Muslim. We have one unusually this year that deals with Native Americans. So it's about it takes place in the Navajo Nation. So just those are a few examples. So we want to get different sorts of cultures and different foci.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Focus. Yes, that's the plural
yeah.
of focus. Yes. Well, that and different ways of storytelling, because the art of storytelling is different across cultures, and to expose the viewers, the members of the audience who come to see these films, to the ways that stories are told from around the world, and that in some ways, how can we learn from that? How can we reflect on what is shown in the film on our own experience here in the United States. As you said, the last film of the semester, America Square, is almost an allegory for our own immigration issues that are here today, even though this was filmed it's a Greek film. Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's, and fundamentally, and how the film festival got started was a desire to expose the community to a lot of different cultures, to help us understand each other better, to help to grow empathy for people who are different, who do things a little bit differently, and ultimately to help our community be more peaceful and understanding, and live happily together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fundamentally what our goal is with the film festival.
Good. And it is a great way to tie together three institutions in the city of Middletown, between Middlesex Community College, Wesleyan University, and the Russell Library, which is a fantastic place to be for all sorts of reasons. Mm-hmm. So to have our three institutions tied together and to present this in some sort of unified way as representing how we would like to present culture in our community is fantastic. So yes, we certainly invite all of our students and you, the listeners, to come join Tad and me for the Middletown International Film Festival. So again, just to kind of recap the three films that are going to be shown for the rest of this fall semester, on Tuesday, these are all Tuesdays at 7 o'clock, Tuesday, October 23rd, 7 o'clock, here at Middlesex Community College, the film White Sun, which is from Nepal. And the speaker that day will be Indira Karamchetty, who's an associate professor of American Studies at Wesleyan. Then the following Tuesday, October 30th at 7 o'clock, also here at Middlesex Community College, the film Santa and Andres, a film from Cuba. And our guest speaker is Dr. Victor Trier, professor of history here at Middlesex. And then finally, on Tuesday, November 6th at 7 o'clock, at the Hubbard Room at Russell Library, the film America Square, which was made in Greece, and our speaker is George Siramis, who's the program director and lecturer in comparative literature and Hellenic Studies program at Yale University. So quite an illustrious group of speakers joining us as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that about wraps up our time here today on Middlesex Moments, and I want to thank Tad Lincoln, Professor of Economics and Political Science, for joining me today and talking about your role at the college, the film festival, the legislative internship. Thanks so much for joining me, Tad.
My pleasure. Thank you, Steve.
And I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us for another edition of Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. As always, you're welcome to visit us in person, especially for the film showings, in person at our main campus at 100 Training Hill Road in Middletown. You can also visit us at our Meriden Center located at Platt High School, 220 Coe Avenue, where we have afternoon and evening classes 4 days a week. And of course, you can visit us online 24/7 at mxcc.edu. So on behalf of Tad Lincoln and myself, Steve Minkler, and everybody here at Middlesex Community College, thanks for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.